Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into this really clever technique that basically acts as a universal translator between you and your database. We're talking about how to take a simple question, something you type in plain English, and turn it into a powerful, structured search query. So let's break down how it all works.
So picture this. You've got this massive library of videos, and you want to ask it something pretty specific, like find me videos about AI that came out after 2024. Now, for you and me, that sounds super simple, right? But for a computer, that's actually a surprisingly complex request. How do you get a machine to understand both the topic and that time filter, all from that one little sentence?
And that is the fundamental problem we're talking about. See, your database is incredibly powerful, but it's also really rigid. It thinks in these very specific commands and filters, like publish date is greater than 2024. But we, the users, we just talk in normal sentences. So the real question becomes, how do you build a bridge between those two completely different ways of communicating?
Well, it turns out that bridge has a name, and it's the hero of our explainer today, query structuring. This is the technique that makes that whole translation thing, which seems almost impossible, actually happen. So what is it exactly? Well, query structuring is the process of taking that everyday question and systematically turning it into a format that a machine can read perfectly. And we're not just talking about plucking out keywords here, it's way smarter than that. It's about identifying the very specific filters and rules that are hidden inside that sentence. So you can think of it as the ultimate interpreter. It's that perfect connection between what you ask in your language and what the database understands in its language. Okay, so it sounds like magic, but how does it actually work? Well, spoiler alert, it's not actually magic. It's a really clever, three-step process that you can use to give your own applications this incredible power. Let's break it down.
First things first, you've got to know what you're working with. You can't filter stuff if you don't even know what filters are available, right? So step one is all about knowing your data's metadata. For a video, that could be its publish date, how many views it has, its length, or even the text in its title and description. This is basically your toolkit of all the possible filters you can use.
Okay, so that's step one, knowing your ingredients, your metadata. This slide kind of lays out the whole recipe for us. After you inspect that metadata, the real power comes in these next two steps. First, you define a query menu, or what the pros call a schema, and then you let a large language model, an LLM, order from that menu. Let's dig into that second step.
So, for step two, you need to make that toolkit official. You do this by creating a schema. Now, if you're a coder, you can think of this like a Pydantic object. But for everyone else, the analogy is even simpler. You're basically just writing out a restaurant menu. You're explicitly listing every single search and filter option that's available, period.
All right, last step, and this is where the AI comes in. You hand this menu over to a large language model using a technique called function calling. What you're really doing is telling the AI, hey, when you get a question from a user, your only job is to fill out an order form based on this very specific menu I've given you. Don't make anything up, just use the menu.
Okay, so we've talked about the theory, which is great, but let's see what this actually looks like in practice. This is the payoff. This is where that translation from simple language into structured logic gets really, really clear.
And just look at this. This is what's so cool. On the left, you've got that simple human sentence. And on the right, a perfect structured query object. I mean, look at this. The LLM correctly figured out that chat LangChain was the main topic, so it put it in both the content search and the title search. And it correctly interpreted before 2024 as a date filter, setting the latest publish date. It's perfect. So this just shows the whole process in a nutshell. The LLM didn't just guess. It took the user's request, it carefully looked at that menu or schema that we gave it, and then it built a precise, structured query that the database can run without any problems. It literally took a vague human sentence and turned it into pure structured logic. Okay, so why should you care about this? Why does this matter so much? Because this isn't just some one-off trick for searching videos. This is an incredibly powerful and really general strategy that you can apply to all kinds of complex systems. You know the folks over at LangChain who've done a ton of work on this? They have a great way of putting it.
They call it a very convenient trick. And it is. It's a trick that lets anyone perform really complex filtering on the fly, just by using the language they already speak every day. So let's just step back and look at the big picture here. What this technique does is make these super complex databases accessible to literally anyone, not just engineers. You don't have to go learn SQL or some other special query language. And maybe best of all, it's a general strategy. It's not a one-off fix. It works with lots of different modern data systems, which makes it incredibly versatile.
And that really leaves us with a final, pretty exciting thought. We've just seen how we can use natural language to unlock a really sophisticated database search. I mean, if we can do this for database searches, it really makes you wonder, what's the next complex system we can unlock and make simple, just by learning how to talk to it?